So let's talk about, Palestine issues. Obviously, there is a genocide going on in Palestine, as you know. And
Yes, yes.
yeah, so it's like every day there is a news of killing and of killings, and obviously, mostly women and children. Obviously, they are targeting journalists, they are targeting reporters all over the world, obviously. And other journalists are not there that much, and it's obviously the Palestinians are one. Those are suffering. Few days ago, obviously, a woman journalist actually killed there. So that's yeah, so that's pathetic, that's sad. As political commentators, as political analysts, or obviously as journalists, we can't just sit down and think that okay, and this is some kind of issue just needs to be put aside, or let's talk about something else. But this is the one topic that's everybody should discuss, right? These things is going on for maybe 1.5 year now, and over 50,000 killed, mostly women and children, obviously. So so they are kind of targeting journalists now, because obviously they don't want the world to hear, the news in Gaza. So that's one of the reason they are particularly targeting journalists and their families, of course. And one of the things they are currently doing is their propaganda campaign on on social medias, obviously Facebook, Twitter, and other platforms. So that's they are doing. But one of the things particularly that interests me in last few days, or maybe weeks or so, or maybe months or so, is just that how world leaders and the countries are reacting to this genocide. So this is one of the major issues. So in Bangladesh, obviously you have a government, Yunus government, that are quite critical of this genocide, right? That's one of the thing. And because of that, maybe, because there are people obviously who look up to the government and say, okay, our government is like criticizing this genocide, so let's criticize it and let's protest about it. In other countries like India or so many others, it's like they are not vocal about it. They are even indirectly, uh, supporting the genocide in a way. So their public opinion is way different than in Bangladesh, or in other countries, in Mexico, or in Spain, or other countries, on or even Ireland. These people like are protesting on the streets and all that. So Bangladesh is one of those countries that are reacting to it quite vocally. On the street you can see protest. On the they are quite openly, they are quite publicly boycotting the products that you know produced by Israel, and that like funds Israel's genocides in Gaza. So that we should talk about. And we should also talk about, I guess, the way these protests are conducting. Maybe we can have a difference of opinion on that also. But at the same time, uh, it is going on in Bangladesh right now. So
So basically, we had this kind of public reaction from a very long time. I should say from the beginning of Bangladesh. So the majority people here are Muslims, and as Palestine is a Muslim area, and actually Jerusalem is the center for three main religions of the world: Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Most have a very strong connection to that particular place. So, anytime anything happens, a strong reaction is generated, a strong emotion comes into play. Uh, and whatever happens, majority of the world population keeps an eye on that. Uh, so whatever happens, it is very difficult to hide anymore. So, and the major challenge right now is it's very difficult to hide or suppress what is happening there. That's why the journalists are targeted, uh, and I think majority of the governments are also uh, vocal about it. Some are afraid to do anything because of the repercussion from some of their allies or others. But if you look at everywhere, it's not only Bangladesh, it's in Spain, it's in Mexico, it's in Harvard, it's in Princeton University. Uh, Even in India, you will see majority of the educational institutes are also protesting this, whatever is happening there. We may not have the whole picture or the whole story here, but nothing actually justified killing or bombing hospitals or children's houses. Or if you know, yes, if there is a terrorist, you have a justification of self-defense, but uh, I mean, the videos, the pictures, and everything that you see uh, never justified those things. So that's one thing. So it is not only the Yunus government, even the previous governments also vocal about Palestinians' rights and other things and coexistence or going back to the UN's original proposals. That's a two-state solution there. Uh, but the government's reaction is always measured and calm and a bit restrained, you can say, diplomatic reaction. People there, they don't have any kind of those restrictions. They don't need to think about geopolitics. When they see a picture of a child suffering, uh, they react. So that's one thing. So how do they reacting? So that's an important question. And you said we might have a bit of a difference of opinion. So let me explain how it works. So initially, it started with street protest and others. Uh, like you occupy some place with a placard or other things. Then you also start boycotting products. You have a list of products that you claim that it's from Israel or have those products or brands supporting Israel financially, morally, or other ways. So people have a negative perception about them. Uh, a lot of local brands actually came up and tried to capture this emotion for their own benefit. Sometimes they do it nicely, sometimes they do it as a gimmick or other things. Uh, and lastly, I think where you are coming in is a few cases of where violence was exerted on some of the brands that is operating in there. Most prominent is the recent incidents with Bata and others. But let me tell you one thing is even when we are boycotting, it's not only Bangladesh. A lot of countries, a lot of people are boycotting, and there are some people who always take advantage of this kind of emotions because when you are acting uh, on the basis of emotion, it is easy to like manipulate people's. Uh, so a lot of brands or products which have no connection with Israel, with no connection of those things, those areas or these conflicts are also listed as a Israeli product. So uh, that kind of manipulation actually happens, and those actually resulted in some of the incident, the violence that we had. And there are some people they're always taking advantage of these things. So that happened in a few cases. Fortunately for us, majority people actually did not do that thing. But those leaders or who are actually uh, leading people or who are supposed to lead, they should be very careful about these kind of things because these things actually undermine the basis of those protests or boycotts or movements. Uh, these becomes a talking point by the other parties or other people who actually demean the whole protest thing. So that's what happened here. And one more thing happened here is during the time of AI and misinformation and all these things, a lot of pictures that are circulating on the social media are fake, generated through AI. And that makes it very difficult for the law enforcement agency to pinpoint who are the culprit. Uh, there have been, I think, around 60 arrests of people who are involved in those violent crimes and looting and robbing those places. Unfortunately for them, they also arrested a few people who are not involved in those things, but their pictures were used to create some of the social media posts where they were seen as looting or trying to loot one or two shops. So, in a nutshell, so this is how it is happening here. Uh, we had strong protest when the Hamas attack happened last year, October. Is it last year or the year before?
The year before,
The year
20
before.
2023. Yeah.
So when Israel retaliated, there was a lot of protest around the country, and it started 2 weeks back here during the Ramadan period, because Ramadan is a holy month for the Muslims, and we actually expect that the violence and other things will be subsided a bit, and the religious feelings are also there. So that started, but now protests are like street protest, and those things are declining, reducing. But boycott is going on. So people actually moved into different brands. For example, Coca-Cola suffered a lot of market share during this time. People went to local brands like Mojo and other things. Uh, I think globally, a few brands also suffered. I just read in Turkey, KFC filed for bankruptcy. It probably for it's a mix of other things, but boycott obviously played a role on that.
Sure.
So boycott is one thing that is going on.
Sure. I mean, we are talking about journalism and what role it can play. And as you know, it can play a huge role on its audience and I mean, on the people in the country or in abroad or other countries, obviously. So, obviously, I mean, there are major newspapers or news channels in Bangladesh that are, I mean, openly or publicly criticizing the genocide. That's, I think, shape the public opinion in Bangladesh. That's one of the reason, because I mean there are opinion columns in Daily Star or other major newspapers that are openly criticizing it and openly calling it in front of the public and all that. So that might I mean shape the public opinion and in Bangladesh, because I mean they think that okay, this is something going on that in Gaza, that is genocide, and it should be I mean protested and all that. So that one of the reasons. In other countries, obviously there are in countries like India and other countries, I mean the newspapers and other news outlets are not vocal about it, so it's not like that much in a protest. But the thing is that obviously, as you said, that there are universities, there are organizations that are protesting, because I mean you can't just hide a genocide. In every day there are newspapers around the world, because in the age of internet and all that, you can see it all over the world. You can see it all over any place you are in. I mean, you just see it, the things that are unfolding in your, I mean, in front of your eyes when you, I mean, open anything, social media platforms or other news outlets that are all over the world. I mean, it's real time genocide that is happening. So, I mean, people are not that stupid, I guess. They just know that okay, what is going on. So obviously they are protesting. But at the same time, it is the role of the government that is kind of different in countries. Obviously, right? I mean, some are openly challenging the Israeli government. Some are obviously helping them in a way, uh, funding the genocide. So that's one of the thing. Yes, we should talk about the protest and the impact of it, obviously. So there are obviously videos circulating on social media. People are openly go to the restaurant and terrorizing some of the children there, some of the women there. So that's some of the things that are, maybe we should call them troublemakers, not the real protesters, right? Them, because, and obviously those people should be there. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't be. I mean, there shouldn't be protests, because people might be careful about that too. Because of some of the bad apples. I mean, the large section of the or protesting section, the people who are protesting. I mean, they shouldn't be tagged as such, the violent ones.
Right.
That's, yeah. So that's one of the issues, because I mean, we should be very careful what we are doing, what people are protesting, what they are not. So that one of the reasons. I mean, Palestine should be the issue here. I mean, the genocide going on there, and obviously we should talk about it. But at the same time, we should also be very, very careful that, okay, because of few peoples, or the few bad apples, obviously, uh, it shouldn't be seen as like they are just violent ones in the name of Palestine. They are just doing their things, looting, and uh, all the stuff. So obviously these,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So in case of governments, government has a like diplomatic restraints. Sometimes you have to show
Hmm.
because in a complex geopolitical scenario, you don't want to like incite your allies. So even if you are like expressing your dissatisfaction, or you want the genocide to be stopped, and you criticize a different country, you don't use the same level of language or other things that a general person can do. So that's one thing. Uh, a lot of country actually assess their interest and express their opinion on that one. But for general people, it's available. You can see it on all social media platform. Some of the social media platforms might censor something, but it's very difficult to censor what is happening. In terms of the reaction and the level of violence or other things, I'm very much with you that we everyone should be careful of not doing the same thing that the others are doing. I cannot criticize someone for doing something and myself go and do the same thing. If I am vandalizing a shop or like brutalize someone in my own country in the name of a protest, I'm no better than those criminals out there. So that's one thing. uh, the interesting thing is like once you're saying we should be very careful about protest, so protest in different countries have different level of violence. Like for example, in probably you have seen the protest by the French farmers. So they will block the road with the big machineries like tractors, bulldozer. They will do that. I have seen the French people or French workers uh, protesting violently. That was probably in 2007 or 8 in Paris. So I fled to a metro station by seeing the violence between police and union workers. Uh, in some countries, people are like a bit unruly. In some, but the major point is that whatever you do, you should not be harming anybody else who has no connection with this genocide in any way. You should like strive to portray yourself or transform yourself as a better person. That is a much better protest than whatever you do or say. Uh, and in terms of the actual problem in Israel and other things, like it is a shame for humanity as well. If you can solve a problem of a small piece of land peacefully by negotiation, that's a shame. It's a failure of world leadership. If you consider in Indian perspective or even a Bangladeshi perspective or any place, if you have a dispute over a land, you sit, the two parties sit with other arbitrators are there, and you solve it out. So not always both party will be happy, but at least you don't keep fighting for over 60 or 70 years on the same piece of land, and nobody has the guts to solve it out. Say that no, sit together, sit in a table, solve it out, make peace, and forget about it. Like a lot of cases, like India and Pakistan have a dispute over Kashmir, right? Yes, there are sometimes disagreement, and sometimes it turns into almost violent situation, but it never goes into such a genocide like in what Israelis are doing in Gaza. And even Hamas, what they did in October 7, that is also not very good. That is what you should not be doing. You should be doing these arguments. You should be throwing words at each other, not punches or missiles or other things. And this is happening in front of the whole world. And most of the countries, like the West and others, they always lecture others about peaceful negotiation and other things. But you are failing to do it for with this scenario, and you have been turning a blind eye into that. You have been criticizing Russia for invading Ukraine, but you are not saying a single word for Israelis sending this. You are also not doing the same thing for Hamas. If Hamas is a terrorist organization, do something about it. You just keep it like burning, you let it burn, and you are actually earning some geopolitical dividend out of this mess. So that
Well,
is
I'm
a
sure.
scenario now.
I mean, there are people obviously who can argue that okay, the protester are protesting because I mean there are some of the things like they are protesting to boycott some of the things that should be boycotted, and there should be radical changes. So that's why they are doing it radically. But obviously, at the end of the day, maybe people will get hurt or something. As per as Hamas is concerned, obviously, I mean one can argue they are just doing it for the Palestinians. That's one of the reasons that they are doing. It's not a terrorist organization as people tagged it, or many Western countries tagged it, because I mean they are just doing it for their people. Otherwise, I mean Palestinians would have gone long ago. That's one of the reasons, because I mean they are protecting the Palestinians. There are arguments about October 7th, obviously, what happened in 2023. That's obviously there, but at the same time, I mean, it should be what you just said, that obviously there are people, I mean, in Western countries, in US, obviously, people, if those governments, if those administrations uh, tried, I mean, if they have this, idea, or if they have this thinking in their head that okay, let's do something about it, let's do something, let's sit on a table and do something about it, they could have done it easily. But at the same time, if you look at in Israel's instant intention, I mean they just want to cleanse the Gaza, I mean Palestinians, ethnic cleansing. So that is what they are trying to do. They want it all once and for all. That's one of the reasons. I mean, and also if you look at the Western countries, there are many section of it, or even many countries that are highly backed by Israel. The elections, if you look at US elections, I mean Israel funding billions there. If you look at Trump's campaign, if you look at Harris's campaign, both are heavily paid by APAC, right? So those things are there, and those things will be there. So that's why they are like, sit back and don't do anything about. Even the so-called progressive politicians in US, like Bernie Sanders, or um, uh, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, or others, obviously, they just don't criticize Israel that much, because they have this view: if they criticize Israel, obviously they will lose certain section of their supporters. So that's obviously there. And obviously you can't trust politicians, because I mean they are just there to sit and get
I will
elected.
say one thing. I will say
Sure.
one thing about if Hamas thinks they can destroy Israel and occupy it and then drive them away from what they are, it's not going to happen.
Mm.
Similarly, if Israel thinks they can cleanse out Gaza and Palestine and West Bank and every places, that is not going to happen as well. So you can't really do that. Whatever you are doing, it's a temporary measurement. So you don't get to do what you wish. So that's one of the challenge that in the whole thing.
But at the
So if
same
you
time,
look at the history of Jerusalem, uh, it has changed hands several times, but you could not hold on to that for a very long time. It's a crusade happens there. Even before crusade, the struggle between Jesus Christ and against the Judaized people and all these things. It's a very long, complicated history. It happened there, but what I'm saying is, uh, if you don't get into a table, negotiate, and get a peace deal, you will not get what you want. Only people that are getting what they want is those who want this conflict to remain as it is, so they can get some benefit out of the situation. One way is to keep the Middle East countries busy with this area rather than going into prosperous way or do something about it. That's one area where things might be there. So the interest is there. So they don't want this conflict to get away. So they want this conflicting situation to remain as it is.
yeah, that's
So
true. But I mean, if you look at the situation, I mean, obviously the Western countries and obviously the capitalist class, they just don't want this to be over. That's for sure. Because obviously they have to fund Israel, and obviously it will make them much richer. Because obviously, I mean, they are sending weapons. So obviously, right? So those are the thing. Those things are there, obviously there, but in this case there is a bit of difference here. If you I mean look at the public scenario in Israel, the Israelis obviously convinced that they need to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians. That's one of the reason. If you look at their polls and all that, all those things, like, I mean, even if they are not happy with Netanyahu, I mean, they are not happy because the thing is that he is not doing a good job, not ethnically cleanse people in Palestine and all that. Even if the government changes, the people in Israel, they are kind of and their opinions are kind of the same. They just want the Palestinian to be destroyed, to be killed. It's like, it's hard to believe, but it is true. And their public opinion, I mean, shaped by the Israeli medias, these are our enemies, we need to kill them, we need to ethnically cleanse them. Those are their opinions, those are their newspapers telling them all the time. And those who are like have a different of opinions, they tag them as like Hamas supporter, they tag them as terrorist sympathizers. So these are the things they are doing, constantly doing. So yeah,
it's a temporary thing. I will say it's after the Hamas attack on October 7th. So that sentiment grows,
that
and
sentiment grows after October
it
7th.
will be
That's
there for a long time probably. But the fact is, you don't get to eliminate that one. If you see in Bangladesh, you can see 1971. Uh, Actually, there is no reason why Bangladesh, as a like general people, farmers who hasn't fired a shot in his whole life, and this kind of people, we don't have an army there. We have a very small police thing, but and who was like trying to persecute them, who was trying to cleanse the whole area. It's the Pakistani army, one of the most effective army in the world
with the support
on
of
this,
US, obviously with the support of
with the
US.
support of many people actually, USA, China, everyone there. So and whatever. India did support Bangladesh, Russia did support Bangladesh, but those are not direct support. Like they sheltered a lot of Bangladeshi people, but the fight was fought by general people who hasn't shot a bullet in their whole life, and you cannot cleanse anybody, a nation or things like that. That never happened in the history of humankind. So that is not going to happen. All it will happen is that you lengthen the conflict. So I will see this is a serious failure of judgment, serious failure of farsightedness, and a serious like lack of uh, judgment, I should again say. So you don't see that one. You want to do something, that's fine. You want to cleanse the other party, you want to destroy them out of existence, but you need to acknowledge that this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. The better solution, the better thing is to sit together. Like Jerusalem, crusade was a very good example. The Christians and the Muslims fought for a very long time over the ownership of Jerusalem. But then what happened? Came to their senses and then started living to, I mean, at the same places, like peacefully. For a very long time, we have been like living there. There, as I was saying, it's an Abrahamic religious center. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all of them came from the same places.
But
And
at this moment, it doesn't look like. I mean, where it does West. I mean, some of the countries, obviously in West, I mean, do want it to be end, but ended by this conflict to be ended, or it shouldn't be called a conflict right now because it's clearly a genocide that is happening, and it's not me saying it. It's the organization all over the world that is that
there
obviously
is no denying that
there
a
is no
genocide.
denying that, and obviously Israel is doing it intentionally. That is that should be acknowledged. That is one of the reasons. And
Mhm.
obviously, I am with you in terms of I mean having a dialogue, having a solution to this. Obviously, having a ceasefire that should be there. But at the same time, this is a clear intention of Israel to make it continue. Otherwise, we should make it stop. That is the obviously, and every country in the world maybe make it their priorities to make this bloodshed or I mean ethnic cleansing to be stopped. So
Yeah,
that's should
everybody
be
with
there.
a bit of a common sense,
Yeah.
just a bit of a grain of common sense should work there, like work hard to end this conflict now and forever.